That Soviet nuclear accident in the Ukraine created fallout today in Chicago.
This could be
not
a
radiation,
Chernobyl
not that
in
kind
the
of fallout.
making. We are now going into uncharted territory. We are thinking the unthinkable.
Parts of Europe are going dark. It's just the latest fallout from the continent's ongoing energy crisis driven by the war in Ukraine.
More than 6,000 people have been forced to leave their homes, and the fire may reach its
storms are now long gone. The damage to our coastlines in some cases will be permanent.
Homes crumbling into the sea within 12 hours.
And here, a struggle for survival. Climate change is on fast forward.
The need for energy across the world has continued to increase and will increase significantly in the near future. Similarly, the effects of climate change and the need to switch to carbon-free energy sources have also increased. The three types of energy that come to mind for solving both these problems are nuclear, wind, and solar. Of course, geothermal and hydropower are amazing sources for energy as well, but obviously not all areas have access to either water or geothermal activity. Besides those two, many people also argue that nuclear power should not be considered a viable option because of various cost estimates and safety concerns. However, I believe that this is far from the case, and that nuclear power is the best alternative energy source for the future because of its reliability, cheap cost, and shrinking dangers. Nuclear power is extremely reliable. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, nuclear power plants can run at a maximum capacity 92.5% of the time, twice as much as the natural gas and coal plants, and 3 to 4 times as much as wind and solar. The main reason why nuclear is so much higher than renewables is because they often don't have enough of their energy source, whether it be water, wind, or sunlight. Renewable energy needs backup energy sources a lot of the time, and currently that isn't possible for the large-scale energy grid. Nuclear power is also much cheaper to maintain than wind or solar. Many experts use the LCOE, or the levelized cost of energy numbers, to argue that nuclear power is much more expensive than wind or solar, but it misrepresents the strong aspects of nuclear power. For example, a wind farm would take 140,000 more acres to produce a gigawatt of power compared to a nuclear plant, and the nuclear plant would still generate 3 times electricity because of its capacity factor. Solar is not far off either, with it requiring dozens of times more land than nuclear. Another flaw with the LCOE estimate is that it fails to put energy density and capacity factor into consideration. In both these areas, nuclear energy has an extraordinary advantage. Not to mention, the LCOE estimates for existing resources have wind and solar power as the most expensive option. This shows that LCOE numbers do not represent the benefits of nuclear energy. Another reason people tend to bring up is the lengthy time it takes to complete the construction for a power plant. In the United States, it could take up to 15 years just to get to operation. Compare that to Japan or France, which can complete that in half or third of the time. Of course, proper safety procedures for construction need to be followed, but the United States can surely make the process smoother and more efficient, just like Japan and France. While the construction is a big time investment, it definitely pays off in the long run, as most plants are able to run for at least 40 years, with some plants preparing to hit the 80-year lifespan really soon. Now comes the time to refute all the main concerns of nuclear power. Chernobyl and Fukushima are incidents that most people are familiar with, and they outline the dangers of nuclear disasters. A lot of the arguments against nuclear power have to do with its potential dangers to human and environmental safety. However, the World Nuclear Organization argues that nuclear power is much more safe than people realize. First of all, the myth that nuclear power plants can explode like a nuclear bomb is just not true. To have a weapon level of explosion, the uranium needs to be enriched to over 90%, while power plants only enrich it to 5% at the maximum. The World Nuclear Organization also goes to explain that the risk of accidents are very low and continue to be decreasing. The International Nuclear Event Scale rates how bad accident consequences were on a scale of 1 to 7, with 1 having no consequences. In the total of 18,500 years that nuclear power plants have been running, only 2 have had an accident rated a 7, which are Chernobyl and Fukushima. Each decade, nuclear reactors are becoming safer and safer. All the phases of construction, operation, and maintenance are guided through by safety precautions. After this, people tend to bring up the possibility of a terrorist attack on a power plant. Obviously, you can't completely prevent something like that from happening. However, an analysis showed that flying a full-fueled Boeing 767 into a reactor at max speed would still not penetrate the containment. The reinforced concrete used in making the silos is very, very strong and resilient. In case you weren't convinced already, experts provided a study in 1981 after decades of research that showed the general public would suffer almost no casualties, even in a worst-case scenario like Chernobyl. For context, only about 30 to 50 people died directly from Chernobyl, and almost all of them were workers at the plant who were working at the time of the explosion. As anyone can see, nuclear power is simply more efficient and cheaper than any other renewable options. And while there's some risk involved, we take much bigger risks in our everyday lives comparatively. Nuclear power could help save our climate change problem, so why ignore it?